The rain hadn't let up for hours. It fell like a curtain across the narrow two-lane road somewhere outside Augusta, Georgia. Visibility was down to nothing. Evelyn gripped the steering wheel of her old Ford, headlights cutting through the blur, wipers smearing more than they cleared. She should have been home already. Her arthritis hated the cold, and her dog probably needed out. But as she rounded a bend near the old cotton fields, her foot eased off the gas. A man was walking in the storm, alone. Tall, black, limping badly. His boots splashed through puddles, his shoulders hunched under the weight of a soaked military backpack. His jacket hung uneven. One sleeve was torn. Even from a distance, Evelyn could make out the patch on his arm, an old army insignia, and the shimmer of something pinned to his chest. A purple heart, half soaked, but there. She slowed, then cursed herself. Don't be foolish, Evelyn. You don't stop for strangers. Not out here. Not alone. She passed him, slowly. But a second later, her hands tightened on the wheel. That man wasn't just limping, he was dragging his right leg. She glanced into the rearview mirror. He hadn't looked up, didn't even react to her slowing down. Just kept walking. Bent by more than the rain. The voice of her late husband echoed in her head. If you see a soldier walking alone in a storm, you stop. Doesn't matter who he is. Doesn't matter where you are. She pulled over. The old truck hissed as it stopped. Rain beat against the glass like it wanted to push her forward. Evelyn reached across the seat and lowered the window halfway. "Hey!" she called out, trying not to sound nervous. "You all right out there?" The man stopped, slowly turned his head. His hood fell back, revealing a face worn with exhaustion. Dark skin, tight jaw, eyes sunken like he hadn't slept in days. A long scar stretched from his left eyebrow to his jawline. His lips parted slightly. "I'm not looking for trouble," he said, voice low and raspy. "I didn't say you were," she answered. They held eye contact through the rain. Just two strangers, one dry and guarded, one soaked and broken. She leaned over and pushed the door open. "Get in. I can drop you at the next gas station." He hesitated, then nodded once. "Thank you." He climbed in, carefully. The smell of wet canvas, rusted metal, and mud filled the cab. His clothes dripped onto the floor mat. He said nothing. Neither did she. They drove. No music. No words. Just the soft thrum of rain on the roof, and the occasional sigh of the old engine trying its best to keep them moving. She glanced at him at a stoplight. His eyes were closed, but he wasn't asleep. Just still. His hands were clenched tight in his lap. The Purple Heart medal on his chest shifted slightly with each breath. "You from Fort Gordon?" she asked. "No," he replied. "Just passing through." He didn't explain further. "Where you headed?" He hesitated. "Wilkinsville. Got a cousin there. Maybe." "That's 30 miles west," she said, surprised. He gave a small shrug. "Had to start somewhere." She didn't ask more, just drove. When they reached her exit, she signaled to pull over. But as she did, something in her chest tightened. The thought of dropping him on the side of the road again in this weather felt wrong. "You got anywhere to stay tonight?" she asked quietly. He shook his head. "I'll manage." "That's not what I asked." He looked at her then, finally, really looked. And she saw it. Grief, pain, something old and deep, hiding behind years of silence. "My place is just up the road," she said. There's a couch and a dry towel. That's all I can offer." He didn't say yes, just nodded. 10 minutes later, she handed him tea, showed him the couch, gave him a fresh towel, told him where the bathroom was. He didn't speak much. He didn't need to. She left him there, in the quiet. The next morning, he was gone. No creaking doors, no goodbye, just a folded towel on the couch. And next to the sink, a handwritten note on a scrap of brown paper. "Thank you for seeing me." One sentence. That's all. But Evelyn stood there frozen, hand still damp from the faucet, heart pounding in her chest. And 1 week later, just after sunset, someone knocked on her door. The knock echoed for days in Evelyn's memory. She hadn't opened the door right away, just stood behind it, hand on the knob, chest tight. When she finally did, nothing was there. Just a small package. No name. No return address. Inside, a single folded photo. It showed the man she had helped, the black soldier. Same scar, same eyes. But this time, he was clean-shaven, standing tall, wearing a full dress uniform beside an American flag. His medals caught the light like armor. Someone important stood beside him. The background looked official, like a military ceremony. She stared at it for minutes. No letter, no explanation. Just that photo. Evelyn set it on her kitchen counter. She didn't know what it meant. She didn't know what was coming. But something deep inside her shifted that night. Something old and buried. In the days that followed, she returned to her usual rhythm. Morning coffee. Feed the dog. Tend the roses. Listen to the news she no longer trusted. Her house stood alone at the edge of the woods. Her neighbors weren't close. Not in distance. Not in heart. And since that rainy night, she'd noticed the glances, the long looks from drivers passing by, the silence at church, the way the grocery clerk didn't ask how she was anymore. Maybe someone had seen the soldier. Maybe someone had noticed him come inside. She didn't regret helping him, but now the town seemed to. One morning, she walked out to check her mailbox and found a folded flyer wedged beside her electric bill. In bold red letters, "Keep our neighborhoods safe." Beneath it, "Say no to outsiders." No name, no organization. Just fear dressed as a warning. She tore it in half and dropped it in the trash. The following week, a neighbor's kid, no more than 10, shouted from across the yard, "Why did you let that man in?" Evelyn looked up from her garden gloves. "What man?" "The one from the army. The one who's not from here." His mother quickly pulled him away. That night, Evelyn didn't sleep much. She sat on her couch, lights dimmed, the soldier's photo on the table beside her. Her fingers traced the outline of his shoulders. Strong, steady, alone. Her late husband had served in Vietnam. She remembered the way he used to flinch every time fireworks exploded. The way he used to wake up sweating, looking for something that wasn't there. She had seen pain before, but never like this man's. His pain was silent, sharpened by distance and color. And now the town saw her differently, too. Her phone rang 2 days later. "Mrs. Langley?" "Yes?" "This is Martin from Crescent Bank. We're reviewing your property's valuation this quarter." "My valuation?" she asked. "Why?" He cleared his throat. "There's a pending review from the homeowners committee. A claim of unauthorized visitors and potential misuse of residential zoning." She went still. "Are you telling me someone filed a complaint because I helped a veteran?" "I'm not saying that, ma'am. I'm saying there's a review." The line went dead cold. She hung up slowly. She had lived in that house for 32 years, raised her daughter there, lost her husband there, buried her dog under the magnolia tree. And now, this. A few days later, she walked into the local bakery, her usual place. Same faces, same quiet nods. But this time, no one looked up. She stood at the counter. The cashier stared down, fiddling with the register. "Coffee and a cinnamon roll," Evelyn said. No answer. The girl finally glanced at her. "We're out of rolls." A lie. Evelyn could see two behind the glass. She gave a tired smile. "No problem. Just the coffee, then." It came in a paper cup. No sleeve, no warmth. As she stepped outside, she paused. The soldier had been invisible until she saw him. And now, so was she. She sat in her truck for a while, engine off, the coffee cooling untouched. This town had turned its back for less. And now it was whispering her name with eyes full of judgment. But Evelyn had never been the type to run. The sun dipped below the trees, casting her front porch in gold. She stood there later that evening, holding the photo again, her thumb smudging the edge slightly. She didn't know why he sent it, or what would come next. But she knew this: she had done the right thing. And sometimes, the right thing costs more than comfort. It costs your place. It costs your silence. But it's still right. 2 weeks later, Evelyn heard a knock again. But this time, it wasn't gentle. It was hard, sharp, official. She opened the door to find a man in uniform, but not military. Sheriff's deputy. White, tall, too confident. He didn't smile. "Mrs. Langley?" he asked, flipping open a leather-bound folder. "Yes." "You're being served." He handed her a thick envelope. "What is this?" "Notice of zoning violation. Your property's secondary structure, the back shed, violates city code. Unpermitted renovations, unauthorized occupancy, and potential safety hazards." She stared at him, stunned. "That shed's been there since the 70s. He shrugged. "Someone filed a complaint." "Someone?" He didn't answer. Just nodded once, tipped his hat, and walked off. She opened the envelope slowly. It was real. Stamped, signed, threatening. $2,500 fine. Court appearance required. And if unresolved, property line. Evelyn sat down on the porch step. Her legs felt like wet paper. This wasn't random. Someone had gone digging. Hard. The next day, the HOA sent a letter. They were reconsidering her eligibility due to recent community disturbances. And then came the city inspector. A man with thick glasses and an empty expression walked around her home for 20 minutes without saying a word. She followed him barefoot in the grass. "What are you looking for?" she asked. He didn't answer, just scribbled on his clipboard. He stopped near the garden. "Is this vegetable patch fenced properly?" "It's tomatoes," she said. He raised an eyebrow. "Could attract wildlife. Might be considered a hazard." Evelyn exhaled sharply. "I've lived here 32 years. Raised my daughter in this yard. No one ever had a problem." He clicked his pen and made another note. They left her alone after that. But only for a day. Sunday morning, her power went out. She walked outside to see a tag hanging from the meter box. "Service disrupted due to billing concern." She called the electric company. They had no record of a request. "Someone must have submitted it online," the woman said over the phone, "using your address." Evelyn sat in the dark that night. A candle flickered beside her. The photo of the soldier leaned against a jar of sugar. His eyes still steady, still watching. She didn't cry. She just stared. What had she done, really? Gave a man a ride? Gave him a towel, a couch, some tea? And now they were trying to erase her. Erase her peace, her home, her place. Not with burning crosses like in old stories, but with fines, forms, silence. The new racism wore suits. It printed letters. It filed concerns. On Tuesday, she went to the post office. The clerk, Roberta, who'd once brought Evelyn peach pie during flu season, looked up, saw her, and turned away. "I need a package sent," Evelyn said calmly. Roberta didn't speak, just pointed to the scale. "Thank you," Evelyn said, still polite. Roberta said nothing. That night, Evelyn sat on her porch. The sky was clear, quiet. Nothing like the night it all started. She remembered the way the soldier had looked when she opened the door that first time. Soaked, silent, scarred. He hadn't asked for help. He hadn't begged. He hadn't explained. He just accepted what was given. And now Evelyn understood why. Because people like him knew. Asking never helped. The world already had its answers. She stood and walked back inside. There was nothing she could do about the neighbor whispers. Nothing she could change in the HOA boardroom. But she could keep showing up. She could hold her place. And she could remind herself she wasn't wrong. They were. 2 days later, a note appeared on her porch. No envelope, just a folded page. Scrawled across it in jagged black pen, "You should have kept your door closed." She didn't flinch. She didn't call anyone. She burned it in the sink. But something else burned inside her too now. Not fear. Resolve. This wasn't just about the soldier anymore. This was about the way this town treated people who didn't play along. The way it punished kindness when it didn't fit their mold. The way it wore smiles while pulling up roots. Evelyn picked up the photo from the counter. She whispered to it. "I saw you when no one else would. Now they want me to disappear too." She placed the photo on the mantel, right beside her husband's flag from Vietnam. And for the first time in years, she slept with the front light off. Let them come. Let them watch. She wasn't going anywhere. It was nearly 3 in the afternoon when Evelyn opened her mailbox and saw the envelope. Plain. No stamp. No return address. Just her name. Inside was a single photograph. The same soldier. But this time, he wasn't alone. He stood at the center of a group, men and women in full military dress, outside a tall stone building with the words Pentagon visible in the background. In his hands, he held something familiar, a framed certificate, and standing beside him, shaking his hand, was the Secretary of Defense. Evelyn blinked. She flipped the photo over. Nothing. No message. Just that image. And something rising in her chest she couldn't quite explain. Later that evening, another envelope arrived. This one was heavier. Hand-delivered. She found it resting neatly on her doormat, placed like it belonged. Inside, a typed letter on official U.S. Army letterhead. Lieutenant Marcus Colton, United States Army. Evelyn sat down to read. "Ma'am, you don't know me, but I serve with Staff Sergeant Darnell Wade. He's the man you helped in the rain. He never told us your name, but he told us what you did. How you saw him when others didn't. How you let him inside when he was ready to give up. He told us that night was the first time in years someone looked at him without fear or pity. You reminded him what home felt like. That single act set off a chain reaction you can't imagine. Wade's been silent since the blast, since the desert, since losing his entire squad. But after you, he came back. Not just to us, but to himself. He wrote me that night, and we knew he wasn't gone anymore. On behalf of our unit, thank you. We'll be in touch soon. Lieutenant M. Colton. Evelyn folded the letter slowly. She held it for a long time. The man she helped was a staff sergeant. Decorated, respected, lost, but not broken. And now he wasn't hiding. And neither could she. The next morning, Evelyn drove to the old war memorial at the edge of town. She hadn't been there in years, not since her husband's plaque was added. As she stood near the stone, she saw a small note tucked between the names. Handwritten, new. It said, "The ones who come back don't always come home." Evelyn knew exactly what it meant. She returned home, quieter than before. Not sad, not afraid, just still. Later that day, someone knocked again. She opened the door and found a young black woman in uniform. Late 20s, strong building, calm eyes. "Are you Evelyn Langley?" "Yes." The woman extended her hand. "Specialist Raina Morris. I served with Sergeant Wade." Evelyn hesitated, then shook her hand. "He sent this," Raina said, pulling a small object from her jacket pocket. It was a coin. Heavy. Silver. Etched with a military insignia on one side. On the back. She didn't ask. She just acted. Evelyn stared. "It's called a challenge coin," Raina explained, "usually for combat valor. But sometimes we give it to civilians. The ones who remind us why we keep serving." She placed it in Evelyn's hand. "We know what they're doing to you," Raina added. "The zoning stuff, the isolation. It's not new." Evelyn looked up. "You've seen this before?" Raina nodded. Small towns don't like disruptions. And kindness. Especially to a black soldier. That's a disruption. They stood there in silence. Until Evelyn asked, "Why now?" Raina smiled. "Because Wade said it's time. He's coming back. Not just to say thank you, but to stand beside you. And he's not coming alone." Then she turned and walked away. Evelyn held the coin tightly in her palm. Her hand trembled. But it wasn't from fear. It was from something bigger, a feeling she hadn't had in years. She wasn't alone anymore. And the truth she thought would disappear had just walked back into her life in uniform. This wasn't over. This was just the beginning. 3 days after the coin arrived, Evelyn got a letter from the city court. This time it wasn't a fine, it was a notice of hearing. The HOA had filed a formal complaint, not just about the shed, but about suspicious activity, unapproved guests, and a pattern of community disruption. She laughed once, a small, bitter sound. They were building a case on paper, on silence, on fear. She called the number listed on the letter. The woman who answered sounded young, polite, too polite. "I'm just trying to understand what this is," Evelyn said. "Ma'am, Your HOA board has initiated an evaluation process. The city is required to process their petition. But I haven't broken any laws. I understand that, but until the hearing, the city will continue with property assessments, including the structures, the garden, and any external modifications you've made. Evelyn almost dropped the phone. Modifications? She hadn't changed a thing in years. She hung up. Outside, the wind pushed softly against the old porch swing. It creaked in rhythm, as if mocking her. That evening, a white SUV pulled into her driveway. Not government, not military, private. 2 men in suits stepped out. Not young, not smiling. One of them knocked while the other took pictures of the house. Angles, siding, the yard, even her truck. She opened the door halfway. Didn't say a word. "We're from the Regional Zoning Department," the taller one said. "Routine follow-up on property claim activity." "Didn't ask for any of that," Evelyn replied. "Sometimes the system asks for itself." He handed her another packet. More documents, more reviews. A printed photo of her garden, red circled around the tomato patch. "We'll be in touch." They left without saying goodbye. She watched them go. Her eyes didn't blink. Later that night, she sat at her kitchen table, flipping through the pages. Page 3 said her property might be eligible for rezoning due to neighborhood evolution. Neighborhood evolution? It sounded like a disease, or a coded word for "let's move her out." Her home wasn't fancy. It had a patched roof, uneven paint, a backyard full of memories, not landscaping. But it was hers. And now it was under siege. No torches, no threats, just paperwork and process. The new racism didn't break down doors. It mailed them closed. Evelyn started moving slower. Not out of fear, but out of calculation. She stopped answering the phone unless she recognized the number. She stopped going to church. Stopped walking her usual route in town. People had made their decision. So had she. On the 7th day, she called the number Raina left behind. A man answered. Calm. Deep voice. Southern drawl, but sharp. "Who gave you this number?" he asked. "You know who." Silence. Then, "What do you need?" "I don't know," Evelyn said. "But they're trying to erase me, on paper." He didn't ask for details, didn't need to. He just said, "We'll handle it." The line went dead, but the silence that followed felt different, like someone else was listening now, watching. 2 days later, Evelyn went to court. She wore her husband's old watch, fixed her hair with the pin her daughter gave her in '98, stepped into that building like it was hers. Because it was. The room was quiet when she entered. The HOA members sat on the left, matching blazers, clean folders. The city rep sat center. 3 men and 1 woman who didn't make eye contact. She sat down alone, until the door opened again, and they walked in. 2 men in military uniform, 1 black, 1 white, and behind them, 2 federal agents in plain clothes. No announcement, no fuss, just presence. They walked to the bench, handed over documents. The room went silent. The judge skimmed the papers, cleared his throat. "This hearing is dismissed." "What?" The HOA president stood up. "This is a legal matter." "Not anymore," the judge said. "All claims withdrawn. Federal override. You may sit down or leave." Evelyn didn't speak, just watched. One of the agents turned toward her and nodded once. That was it. No dramatic speech, no courtroom monologue. Just justice. Delivered clean. Later, as she stepped outside, the black soldier from that rainy night leaned against the wall. Clean uniform. Steady stance. "Evening," he said. She smiled. "I didn't expect you." He looked up at the sky. "Rain's coming again." "I've got towels," she replied. He chuckled once, just once, and then handed her a sealed envelope. "Read it inside," he said. "But know this first. It's not charity. It's not a favor. It's something we should have done long ago." Then he turned and walked toward the SUV, where others waited. No goodbye, just silence, and the sound of Evelyn's heart pounding in her ears. The envelope felt heavier than it looked. Evelyn held it in both hands, standing alone in her living room. The soldier was gone. The agents were gone. Only the echo of their presence remained. She sat at the kitchen table and opened it. Inside were 2 documents. The first, an official letterhead from the United States Department of Justice. It confirmed full dismissal of all HOA complaints, zoning violations, and pending legal actions. The property was marked protected under federal review as a result of involuntary harassment tied to racial bias and veteran discrimination. The second document was shorter, simple. Director. Mortgage debt, cleared in full by veteran assistance funding and private donation initiative. At the bottom, a single line handwritten in black ink. For standing tall when no one else would. D.W. Evelyn didn't cry. Not yet. She sat quietly, the letter trembling between her fingers. Her house was safe. Her name cleared. Her record untouched. And it hadn't come through the town. It had come through him. The soldier who limped in silence through the rain. The one nobody saw, except her. The knock came again just after sunset. She opened the door, expecting stillness. But there were people. Not a crowd. Not media. Soldiers. 3 of them. Black, Latino, white. All in uniform, standing in formation at the edge of her porch. And with them, Captain Stephen Marks. He stepped forward, holding a black folder and a leather box. "Ms. Langley," he said formally, "I'm here on behalf of the Office of Veteran Community Engagement, and on direct instruction from Sergeant Darnell Wade." She stepped aside. "Please, come in." They filed into her living room, removing their hats respectfully. Her dog didn't bark. He just sat near the couch, silent, sensing the weight of the moment. Captain Marks opened the black folder. "This certificate," he began, laying it on the table, "is signed by the Secretary of the Army. It recognizes you as an honorary civilian ally for veteran mental health recovery and reintegration." Evelyn's name was printed in gold lettering at the top. Below it, the words, "For quiet courage, unquestioned compassion, and the strength to act when others would not." He paused, then gestured to the leather box. She opened it. Inside lay a silver coin, thicker than a quarter, etched with the U.S. Army emblem. The reverse side bore a single phrase. She didn't ask. She just acted. Her hand trembled. Captain Marks continued. "These challenge coins are rarely given to civilians, but Sergeant Wade insisted. He said what you did saved his life." Evelyn finally spoke. "I just offered a couch and a warm drink." That night, Marks said gently, "You offered him humanity. That's more than most." She couldn't speak. Her throat burned with something deeper than gratitude. It was validation. It was proof that what they tried to erase had been carved in steel instead. Then another voice spoke from behind. "I never said thank you." Evelyn turned. He was there. Darnell Wade. No limp, no rain-soaked jacket, no hood, just a clean, pressed uniform, a chest full of medals, and a presence that filled the room without noise. She stared at him. "I didn't expect all this," she said. "You didn't expect anything," he replied. "That's why it mattered." He stepped closer and placed a sealed envelope on her table. "This is for your repairs, your land, your future. It's from people who never forgot what you did." She tried to hand it back. "I can't accept this." "You already did," he said, "the moment you opened your door. We're just following through." He turned to go. "Wait," she said. He paused. "What changed?" she asked softly. "You did," he said. "Your kindness didn't just save me. It reminded my entire unit what we fight for. Not the flag, not the orders, but people like you." Then he walked out, just like before. Quiet, without demand, without drama. But this time, he left something behind. Everything. Outside, the porch lights flickered on as the soldiers stepped into the night. The SUV doors closed, the engines faded. Evelyn stood there, hand on her chest. The coin still warm in her palm, the letter beside the sink. And the fear? Gone. What they tried to bury had bloomed. She walked to her backyard where the garden still stood, untouched. Bent down, ran her hand across the tomato vines, and whispered, "You're safe now." The night air wrapped around her like armor. She wasn't invisible anymore, and she was never alone again. Spring came soft and slow to Georgia, the kind of spring that didn't shout, it whispered. Sunlight filtered through the trees behind Evelyn's house, turning her backyard gold. The wind carried the scent of soil, lilac, and rain. She stood barefoot in the garden. Not for the first time, but now it felt different. Because it was hers again. Not just the house, not just the walls or roof, but the land. The place where she buried her husband's dog. The corner where her daughter once built a stick fort. The spot where a tired soldier once stood with mud on his boots. Now, the soil felt alive, planted deep with the roots of kindness. Quiet, unshaken. She looked toward the shed, repaired, painted, still standing. Her neighbor hadn't spoken in weeks. The grocery clerk had gone back to pretending she didn't exist. The HOA had gone silent. But soldiers still came. Not in groups, not in formation. One at a time. Some brought tools, fixed her gutter, replaced a broken porch board, rewired the old fuse box. None stayed long. They just nodded once, finished what they came for, and left. No charges, no debt, only service. One evening, a man named Reggie showed up with a solar panel kit. "I didn't ask for this," Evelyn said, watching him from the porch. Reggie smiled. "Logan said sunlight helps things grow." That night, Evelyn placed the challenge coin, the folded photo, and the military letter inside a small wooden box. She added the original note. "Thank you for seeing me." Then she added something new. A hand-painted sign for her front yard. Not loud, just honest. "This porch welcomes those forgotten, no questions asked." And she meant it. Weeks passed, then months. On her birthday, a package arrived. No return address, no card. Inside was a framed photo. Logan Wade, standing at a podium in Washington, D.C., hand over his heart. Behind him, a massive screen projected the words, "She didn't ask, she just acted." Below it, Evelyn's name. She hung it beside the pantry, where she packed meals every Sunday for the local veterans' shelter. Because some honors didn't belong in glass cases. They belonged in hands that kept giving. She didn't post about it, didn't share it online, didn't need to. Because sometimes, the reward for doing the right thing isn't applause. It's peace. One morning, a young woman with tired eyes knocked on the door. Veteran. Lost. No place to go. Evelyn didn't ask for her name. She just opened the door and said, "You like tea?" The girl nodded. Quiet. Unsure. "There's a towel on the couch," Evelyn said. "It's clean." That evening, Evelyn sat on the porch, wrapped in a shawl, sipping her coffee. She looked out at the garden, blooming quietly. The flag on the old pole barely moved. The sky stretched wide and warm, and as the wind passed gently through the trees, she heard it again. A knock. But this time, she smiled. Because she already knew. Sometimes the knock isn't someone asking for help. It's the world remembering who you are.